All right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of The Coach's Compass. Again, don't know what episode it is because we just continue to roll on and bring on cool guests from all across the world. Remember, hit down below that like, subscribe, comment button as we continue to help this thing grow and continue to bring on coaches from all over. It's your boy, Coach Coop, your boy, Jay, reporting live all the way over here from Europe. We got another dope guest with us today, somebody that is in the college sector and has spent a lot of time in that college area. It is Coach Preston. Coach Preston Scott joined LIU as an assistant sports performance coach in June 2022. He works with a football team and leads the training programs for women's soccer, men's lacrosse, and rowing. Prior to joining LIU, Coach Scott served at the University of Memphis as an assistant strength and conditioning coach with football and was the head strength and conditioning coach for men's and women's tennis and director of intern curriculum and training. Scott graduated from Duke University in 2012, where he was a varsity football player. He graduated with a degree in biological anthropology and anatomy. After that, he later on went to earn a master's degree in urban education at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. He taught high school biology and chemistry while coaching football and track before joining Memphis staff. He is strength and conditioning coach certified through CSCCA. He also just recently got his master's in science and strength and conditioning from Logan University. Also, Coach Scott is married to Amara and has 2 kids. So, Coach, man, what a long resume right there. But welcome and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Coach, what sparked your interest and got you wanting to be involved in strength and conditioning?
So I've always been involved with sports since I was a little kid, and played football in college, played a bunch of different sports in high school. And when I graduated, I started teaching, as you mentioned, in Memphis, Tennessee, and loved it. Loved interacting with the students, loved coaching. I was trying to coach everything that I could, everything that would pay me a stipend. I would try to coach it. And I was doing that. I was coaching and I was personal training on the side, and just recently got married around that time. And for about 2 years, I was like, man, I'm doing a lot. How can I merge all of this stuff together? I love being around people. I love teaching and mentoring kids and mentoring people, helping people reach their goals, whether it's in the classroom, on the field, or in the gym. And so I was like, yo, there's got to be a way I can there's somewhere where all of this meets. And I was like, man, being a college athlete, strength and conditioning, we were around our coaches all year. So maybe that's a good opportunity. I just called my coach, who was still at Duke at the time. He knew a couple of people in the Memphis and Ole Miss area. And I was able to get an internship at the University of Memphis. Since I was a teacher, it was perfect. I would do that over the summers and then teach in the fall and kind of show up at games whenever I could. And I was able to build relationships with the coaching staff at Memphis who recently got there. And not too long after my internship there, they had someone leave, and it created a spot, and they called me, and I was able to become a full-time strength and conditioning coach. And so for me, it was always a passion to be around athletics, to be around people who are trying to learn whatever it is that they're trying to learn, in this case, strength and conditioning. And just try to share any and everything that I know. I know I'm not perfect, but I know I can motivate people. I know I can encourage people, and I'm passionate about doing that. And so that's what really drew me to strength and conditioning, and has kept me in it ever since.
How was it to kind of, because you're an intern, right, at the time, and you're still teaching. How was it to kind of, because you go from being a star playing, right, you're teaching and you're kind of coaching athletes, and then you got to go back, take some steps back and become an intern. And you're not making any money doing that. How was it to take that back seat and take a step back and swallow some pride and be like, all right, I'm going to take a little bit of time of being an intern before a position opens up? What was that like, and how did you handle it?
Honestly, man, I don't know. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm the humblest guy in the world, but I just kind of looked at it as it was new. And so because it was new, I have experience as a personal trainer and experience as a college athlete who's working out, but I don't have the experience of being an actual strength coach. And so I know training an athlete versus everyday citizen at the gym who's trying to lose weight is different. So I kind of looked at it as like, oh, okay, this is like a new classroom for me. Like this is just something new to learn. And so I just kind of approached it with that mindset of like, okay, I don't know. Let me not come into this thing like I know everything. I don't know. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to shut my mouth because I don't know anything. So I don't want to say anything wrong. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to just do the work. I think what also made me think about that was when I talked to my previous strength coach. He's like, yeah, man, in order to get into the business, you just got to show people that you know how to work, that you can put in the work and that you're willing to grind. All right, I've been doing that my whole life. So once I got that internship, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here on time. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to do whatever I need to. Whatever you ask, I'm going to do it. You're never going to have to ask me twice. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask as many questions as I can. And hopefully I'll never have to ask that same question again, because once you tell me, I'm going to go home. I'm going to research it. I'm going to figure it out as well. And then I'm going to learn. I'm going to keep learning. So that was kind of my approach. Like, hey, this is a new classroom. Let me do everything I can to get as much information as possible. And then let me just do my best to be me and just be nice to people, be cordial, be encouraging, and show people that I care about where I'm at. And I think that's what really helped me stand out. And, a lot of people go straight from an internship, maybe to another internship, to another, then a GA, then finally, they're moving all over the place. I was blessed. I really feel like God blessed me and gave me some favor where I went from one internship to a full-time paid position. And I think that had a lot to do with my character and with my work ethic, and just being at the right place at the right time. Not that I'm much better than a lot of these other coaches who are out there who had a different route, but I feel like I was in the right place at the right time. And my work ethic and my character really showed that I was someone who was worth bringing on from that internship. So yeah, that was kind of my mentality and how I just kind of was like, hey, you guys are the experts. I'm going to treat you that way, and I'm going to treat myself as the novice. I'm going to just do everything I can to learn as much as I can.
So if we look at, we'll just stick to the time in Memphis right now. If you look at from being an intern and then getting that full-time position, what does the day-to-day kind of look like, especially for our European listeners over here that don't essentially see how the college strength, because all they see is, the big weight rooms, the hype videos and all that stuff. What does the day-to-day for a college strength and conditioning coach look like as an intern and then getting that full-time role, not only just working with football, but also working, with women's and men's tennis?
Man, as an intern, you're definitely busy, but you're busy doing a lot more of the busy work. You're not necessarily in charge of anything, so you're the one setting up, you're the one breaking down, cleaning, getting the food, nutrition station ready, taking attendance, all this other stuff. But depending on the school, if you're at a place where you only really have interns over the summer, now when you're the full-time person and the summer is over, well, you don't have any interns to do all that for you anymore. So now as the full-time person, you're also doing the same things you were doing as an intern, but now you also have more responsibility. If you're in charge of a team, you're doing programming, you're collecting data. So the biggest difference is it's all on you when you are the full-time person, and you're doing more of the pre-work and the prep work to plan for the workouts and to be in charge and to be more mentally locked in, commanding your presence and leading the room. Whereas the intern, it might be physically demanding, but mentally it's not as demanding because you're just sitting there trying to absorb as much as you can, and then just shutting up and getting out of the way. Again, depending on what program you came from or what coach you learned from, it would depend on how much you get to do as an intern. In my internship, my job was to shut up, get out of the way, watch, take notes, and whenever we're outside running, just say encouraging stuff to the guys who are struggling. So now, I still do that as a full-time coach who has his own responsibilities, but then there's more stuff that I'm obviously taking home and planning for and doing. So I feel like the internship really helped me see the grunt work of the job. And it made me realize, like, okay, I can handle this. Like, I'm okay with doing this kind of thing or being here for long hours. And so it didn't scare me away from the profession, and it allowed me to have an appreciation for it when I finally became a full-time paid position, and just adding on the responsibilities, which is, the stuff that you really like to do, coaching the athletes, planning for it. So if I can handle the stuff that's like, it's not as fun, then I knew I was going to be able to make it.
I think a
And
question
what's
that I have, and I think a lot of other coaches too that aren't in the college strength coach kind of just like going off of what you were saying with just like all the grunt work and obviously like in your internship, speaking to it within your internship and even now is like with all that grunt work and all that time spent at the facility in your internship, like where is the time to kind of just like, learn and really try and like dig down deep into your craft and like where is that even as a head strength coach, is just like where like when do you guys have time to like program? You guys are so busy just like
Yeah.
waking up early wake ups with late nights.
So yeah, it is a super busy job, but if you're disciplined with your time, especially now, I have to be disciplined with my time because I have a family. I have two little boys who, when I get home and they're at home, they're demanding like, "Yo, we're about to get after it." So I have to make sure that I use the time I have during the day as best as I can, and even if I need to, after they go to sleep, sometime at night. But it really depends on what sport, how many sports you have, what sports you're doing. Like if you're doing football only and you're an assistant, you'll have some roles, but you'll have a lot of free time during the day as well. Like you'll have a group, then you might have some free time, then another group, then some free time. Obviously, you're probably going to work out on your own at some point during that day, have some meetings, but there's definitely pockets of time throughout the day. So making sure that you're utilizing those pockets of time and not just like scrolling on Instagram or just shooting the breeze all the time, making sure that you're using that hour here, that 30 minutes here to read an article or to just plan to get the X's and O's on paper, to plan the next 8 weeks of a cycle, whatever it might be. So my thing is like, I really try to make sure when I'm at work, I'm getting as much work done as I possibly can so that I don't have a lot to bring home. And that I can feel comfortable with like, hey, I can go home, I can chill, I can be with my family, and then I can wake up the next day and do it all over again. And if I have to, if there's something that's pressing or I need to crunch some numbers and get it to a coach in a timely manner, then I'll probably bring that home and get it done that night so the next day I can present it to them. So yeah, it's really just about using your calendar wisely, making sure you're staying on top, keeping reminders. But there's definitely people say it's a busy job, and it really is, especially when it comes to like recruiting and traveling during in-season times and practices. But if you, like I said, if you're disciplined and you use your time wisely, there will be time during the day to get what you need to get done. You gotta be on it. If you waste any time, then you might get behind.
when you have that time in the day, like to actually like I guess take time to learn and research and do all that stuff, who are some of the people that you're learning from and kind of fine tuning your own craft and kind of taking bits and pieces from to help improve your own programming?
Yeah. Man, I think it's a mixture. So I try to stay as like science and evidence based as I can because I like knowing the why behind why I do something. I think social media is a great continuing educator, but there's a lot of stuff out there and there's a lot of mixed messaging. And so I think by having a basis of like reading articles helps me sift through stuff that I might see that, oh, that looks cool. I haven't seen that before. Oh, that's an interesting way to coach this or teach this. It helps me kind of say like, nah, I don't think that's for me, or oh, I don't think that's necessary, or oh, you know what, that seems pretty sound. So I like Sportsmith. They're a UK based brand that has really shot up since the pandemic. And Rob Pacey, their podcast and their site, they just do a really good job of really interacting with coaches and getting their feedback on how they do things and not necessarily making it too much of like a science journal, but the stuff that they produce is like written by actual coaches who are practicing what they're writing about. So it's relevant. I feel like a lot of scientific journals sometimes are using random college populations who aren't elite athletes. And so Rob Pacey and Sportsmith is a huge one that I followed. Another one that I've started to look at a lot more since I got up here to Long Island is the IUSCA. They're another one that's primarily in the UK, I think, but they've slowly gotten some more traction in the US, and they have articles once every couple of weeks, again, where they're interacting with coaches who are displaying what they're doing and how they're doing it, and trying to put it more into like a scientific format. So those kind of articles I feel like are very helpful. Simply Faster is another great website. that has good information from coaches. I really try to make sure that I'm finding stuff from actual practitioners who are doing it, because it's great if a scientist is talking about it, but if they don't really have the understanding of like implementing something in a large group setting or a team setting, it might not carry over as well. So I try to do that as often as I can. That might be once every other week, twice, once a month. And then, looking at social media and at people who I think are legitimate coaches, who are in it for the right reasons, who are doing great things, and who aren't just like influencers. Because even in the world of fitness and strength and conditioning, there's like S&C fitness influencers who are trying to find a niche and trying to find little gimmicky things to do to get views that might not necessarily make sense or be realistic. So guys who I think are creating some really good content that's probably helping their teams. Joey G down at FAU is really solid. Zach DeCant, I'm sorry if I'm butchering his last name, but down at TCU, he does a lot of good stuff. I like Scott Leach up at Rhode Island. He does a lot of his contact prep and agility-based stuff for his football teams is really good. And there's a smattering of other people. I'm forgetting some of the names. But when it comes to social media, those are kind of some of the people that I might look to, like, okay, this is how he's doing it. This is how they're setting it up. How am I doing it? How does it compare? And maybe I can switch up how I normally do the speed drill and do it that way. I try to stay up to date with that type of stuff. And then obviously every year going to either the CSCCA conference. I love going to the Sorinex conference just to kind of be around other strong people and people who love fitness. And then trying to find one other type of conference each year that's like off the beaten path. So this past June, I went to the Sportsmith Speed Conference at the University of Pittsburgh. And that had a lot of heavy hitters. Les Spellman is a great person to learn from. They had, I'm blanking on the names now. But they had a lot of people who were all talking about speed, power, explosiveness from the team sport perspective. And so that was a really good conference. Got to meet a lot of good people there and see a lot of good things that people are doing from rehab, return to play, and just developing speed in general. I try not to do too much because obviously I want to be the coach that I want to be and not changing everything that I do every year. But I try to, read a little bit, tweak a little bit of things, but still stay true to the way I do stuff. So long answer.
No, I love that.
No, that all makes sense. I mean, a lot of the coaches that we brought on have all been learning from some of those big names you say, especially Les. Les Spellman is one of those guys that I think a lot of people respect in the game of not only just speed, but just in this world of strength and conditioning. Like he's doing tremendous work. But all those guys that you're learning from and then kind of piecing it together and still staying yourself, what are some things that you kind of use for your athletes as like measurements and metrics that you're measuring, like to know like that they're ready for the season, or stuff that you're looking at to like kind of find the deficiencies? And how are you measuring all this stuff?
Man, it really depends on the sport. And it depends on what I've gauged from my experience with that sport is going to help them be successful. And then a lot of it is interacting with the head coach and like, hey, what kind of team do you want? Because at the end of the day, I do kind of work for you depending on the sport. I might not work for you in terms of you are in charge of hiring me. But my goal is to produce the team physically that you desire on the field. That's going to fit your style of play. So in lacrosse, that's going to be guys who, a lot of those guys here are stiff. They don't have to be very athletic to be good at their sport, depending on their position. If they're an attackman, man, if you just got a quick release and you can do a quick shimmy, man, you can score a lot of goals, and you might not have to be fast or make people miss all the time. So some of that is just making sure that they're healthy. Lacrosse, obviously, I treat them a little bit like football players because they are a contact sport. So I'll take a lot of before and after photos with them, see their athletic development, their body development. I'll do different flexibility tests at the beginning of the off season. We'll do some strength assessment and speed assessment. So really with the speed, I'll do the 10, the 20, and the 30. Really no need for them to run 40 yards full speed. Very few of them are ever really going to be running that far. And just from the research that I've seen, a lot of team sport, field sport athletes reach their peak around 30. And so I use that to kind of gauge how fast they are and in the different segments of that 30-yard sprint. In the weight room, the typical stuff, power clean, once they learn how to do it. Front squat, I try to start with front squat first to really teach them how to get into that front rack position, and give them more of an upright position when they're squatting, because a lot of kids just get real wonky and real weird when they put the bar on their back. So I'm like, hey, let's always just start with front squat, slowly teach that power clean, get you used to that. And we'll assess those things. I use a lot of trap bar movements for all of my sports, whether it's soccer, lacrosse, or rowing. Again, because that's some low-hanging fruit right there. It's easier to teach, and it's easier to help them get stronger early on with that versus any other movement in terms of their lower body. So I'll do the trap bar. I've started to get away from benching, especially if it's in a sport where, like with soccer, like I'll add dumbbell bench or barbell bench in there for the girls who like have come from a fitness background and they just love benching and they're like, oh, I want to bench 135 one day. I'll keep it in there, but I won't necessarily assess it all the time because I don't want to make it a priority, because I just feel sometimes there's a lot of risk versus the reward. Like them benching isn't necessarily going to help them as a soccer player or even a rower, but I'd rather them have more stable shoulders. So we'll do more overhead press. We'll do more push press. I've also just become a fan of push pressing, almost overhead pressing for assessing, just because the cheating of it, them being able to use their legs, it makes it a little bit more of a full body movement, a little bit more explosive. And it just helps them be able to move the weight a little bit easier versus if they're a little bit stiff, if they're struggling on a real overhead press max, like kids are probably going to use their legs anyway. So that's just from experience. Like, hey, if you're going to use your legs when we actually do max out on this movement, why not just turn it into a push press and we'll keep it consistent the whole way through. So yeah, so we'll do the weight room stuff, flexibility stuff, and on-field stuff, usually like a 5-10-5 for some kind of agility. I don't really have any true agility where it's like reactionary or stuff like that. That's a test. But the 5-10-5 for change of direction, sprint, and and then constantly just assessing how they're feeling, how they're moving, ankle, hip, shoulder mobility, stuff like that, and trying to throw stuff into their workouts and warm-ups to keep hammering those types of things home so that they are more mobile and healthy. Because I always tell every athlete, whether we're recruiting them or they're on the team, like their job is to be on the field and not on the sideline cheering with me. Everything we do is to keep them on the field, keep them healthy, and keep them explosive and fast or whatever it might be that they need.
So with that testing and stuff, like for your max out days, are you doing more 1 rep max, 2, 3 rep max? What is it that you're testing? And what are some of those, like the male and female numbers are like, shoot, like this is a freak of an athlete?
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely times for the 1 rep max. I know a lot of people are like, man, it's a high risk. Kids can get hurt. But I'm at a place where we don't have a lot of technology. So in an ideal world, maybe if we had, Tendo units or a perch or anything that would, track velocity, we would be able to say, okay, hey, we're going to max out today, but we want to move the heaviest way we can as fast as we can. And anything under 0.5 meters per second, we're cutting you off or whatever it might be. But I don't have that. So I have to kind of program off of maxes for a lot of the things that I use. And so for me, a lot of it is, especially in the off season, slow playing the movement so that they really get it and they move well and they do it the right way. And then understanding that, when there are max days, some guys are going to stray, girls or guys are going to stray from their normal form, especially in things like a power clean, to just try to get that weight. Because in their mind, they might have a goal that they're trying to hit and they don't care how ugly it looks, they're trying to get it. And so, early on, I always start with some kind of 3 or 5 rep max and then kind of have like a projected 1 rep max for them to program off of, like a training max. And then as they get better at it, then we'll have moments at the end of semesters, mid-semester, depending on how it all works out, for 1 rep maxes. I don't like doing more than a 1 rep max for power clean. So we'll always do a 1 rep max for power clean. But again, I won't always necessarily have like a pre-number for them. I'm just like, hey, we're going to load this bar up light and we're really going to hammer home the form. And as you get better, we'll add a little bit more weight. And as you get better, we'll add a little bit more weight. So with the Olympic movement, it'll be more kind of like an RPE scale that we'll use to kind of figure out how hard it is for them. until we kind of get better at the movement, and then can be like, okay, hey, today, we've been going for 10 weeks. All right, now we're really going to get after it and try to find a max for you. And the same thing with squatting. We'll take as much time as we need to with the front squat. We'll once they get the form or early on, we'll try to get a 3 rep. But again, if it's a guy who looks good and he's coming in with good mobility, yeah, I'll get a 3 rep on you early because you can handle it and it'll be safe. But if you're a guy who your front rack or your back squat or whatever it is that we're doing is just trash, then I'm not going to max you out at all early on. We're just going to focus on, hey, we're going to keep slowly adding weight, making sure that this movement is moving well. And then eventually, you'll have that day, that limelight where you can kind of get hyped and get ruckus and get after it. So I try to just have that mentality of I want to be safe. I want the athletes to be safe. And I know that maxing can be dangerous, but if you prep them the right way, if you prepare them the right way and make sure that their form is correct as best that it can be, then that max day, whenever it is going to be as safe as it can. And so obviously when it's like football, you have more coaches involved. You could have more spotters, more eyes, more guys ready to cut a guy like, hey, that was high. I don't think you should move on. With my other sports, it's just me. So I have to constantly be moving around the room and making sure I have a good feel for, what guys or girls look like, what they should or shouldn't be doing. So I always have the numbers ready with me, like, hey, you're normally around this weight for as heavy as you can go. So once I start seeing you get near this weight, like I'm really going to be focusing on you and making sure you're doing it the right way. And if it doesn't look good, then I'm going to cut you. And all my athletes know that. They're like, hey, I want quality over the quantity of weight. And, some older athletes, it's like, hey, you don't need to get stronger. Like in soccer, for instance, I have like goalies who are really strong. I'm like, that's great. You adding another 20 pounds to your front squat or trap bar or anything isn't going to help. I really need you to be more explosive and be able to jump better. So when we max out, you're going to be actually in a different phase. You're going to be in a strictly power phase and you're going to be moving stuff fast. And I have one like Vitruve unit that I have for myself. So I'll have like all my goalies at one rack and I'll be like, hey, I want you guys moving this weight above 0.7 or something like that. And I want you to see how heavy you can get and moving it this fast. So I try to tailor it to the position and the needs of the specific athletes as they get older and depending on what they play. But yeah, I think the general theme for maxing out for me is build it up, build it up, build it up, take as much time as you can, make it as safe as possible. And then when they are ready, man, go for it. Go for it. Let them have fun, but let them stay focused on the task of staying safe and getting out of there and focusing on the sport. So that's kind of how I do it.
Looking at like the career of like your athletes, because I guess like in college you'll have athletes for like maybe 4 to 6, right? Usually 4 to 5, and then when you have like your freshmen coming into their final year with you, like what does that development look like? And like if you were to reverse engineer like from where you want them at when they leave your campus and they're done with their senior year to when they come in as freshmen, and you're probably teaching them like how you said, like teaching them how to do hang cleans and power cleans and front squats, like what would that look like?
Man, so with football and with the other sports, it's a little bit different because with football, again, because you have more coaches to help, we can kind of get the freshmen and kind of really go to like a block zero kind of movement pattern ingraining. So like no weight, prisoner squats, upright, position holds for like the whole summer when they get here. So that when the season starts, we can slowly start introducing other movements like, hey, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be strictly working on trap bar deadlift and clean pulls. And then we're going to progress up or we're going to teach it from the top down. So with football, because there's more coaches and more bodies, we can kind of have a little bit more specificity for the freshmen. And, we're doing all front squatting. We're doing all overhead pressing and benching. We're doing just kind of like the steak and potatoes of what we want to see them move well in. And then we'll have our accessory lifts that might be like hamstring dominant or whatever else it might be, because we can have them in a whole separate group, especially over the summertime because there's no classes and there's no one else here. But at our weight room, it's like it's a new team every hour on the hour. And so you don't have a lot of time to spend with the whole team. And like, for instance, with my lacrosse team, we have 60, 65 guys on the team. And again, it's just me. And so they're not here over the summer, they get here when school starts. And so it's like I got all 65 of them. Everybody in here is at a different level, a different grade. And so I've got to find a way to kind of like delineate within the room while keeping everything orderly and organized. So with those guys, they'll have a workout that's very similar to the older guys, and I'll kind of split the room. Hey, if you've been here for more than a year, boom, you're on this side. If you just got here, you're on this side. And it might look very similar. And anytime we come back from a long break, I can't expect all the guys on the team to have really paid attention to the take home workout. Some of them got jobs. Some of them got, other things that they're worried about, or they just don't care. So I'm not naive and thinking like, yeah, everybody did my take home packet. Like some of them might not have touched it. So that I always treat the beginning of every semester kind of like a revamp. Hey, we're going to relearn everything. But with my older guys, that relearning might be a week or 2 weeks, and they progress back into what we would do faster. Whereas my younger guys, that learning stage might be the first 8 weeks. And so I'll keep them slowly progressing longer than the older guys. But again, the movements in the room, the accessory work will all look similar so that I don't have two completely different workouts going on at once. And I'm trying to balance and like stay on top of everything. And like, hey, what workout are you doing? Wait, what grade are you in? Like trying to remember everything. I can kind of look at the room and step back and see everything moving and looking similar. But the reps and set schemes over here might be slightly different than the guys who are veterans. Or, hey, the veterans, they're going to be doing full power cleans, but you guys are only doing, pause and above the knee, high pull, clean pull, muscle clean. And so it's still similar, but at least I can know, boom, these are the major differences. And then I can make tweaks on the fly because it's just me. So, when you're in that kind of Olympic thing setting, which in American terms, it's like you got basketball, football, and then the Olympic sports. And so when you're kind of in a space where you're doing the Olympic sports, where it's just like everything other than basketball and football, it's usually just you. And it's usually just you with a bigger team. And so I have to find ways to still have control over the room, have a presence, and know everything that's going on, but still have little ways where I can make sure it's tailored to the athletes themselves and make sure that it's progressing properly. So the freshmen, they'll take much longer to get into those full cleans, back squats, other things like that. And then eventually it'll become something to where, hey, we're shooting for 2 times your body weight on this lift or 1.5 times your body weight in general. Whether you get there or not, I'm not pressed for it, but I'm looking at it more so for the older guys. Hey, once you get to this level, well, we don't necessarily need you to chase this 500-pound squat because it's probably going to look like crap. You're probably not going to do it right, and it's not going to help you as a player. So now I can get you into like this third bucket of we need to make you, maintain some strength, maybe use a lot more isometric stuff because you've been here longer and you're more beat up. So use some isometric stuff to take some load off of your joints and to just help your joints more. But then also like have more power-based stuff, have more speed-based stuff in your workout. So that you're popping around, you're moving, you're flying, you got everything. I know you're good. So now I'm just trying to keep you fast, keep you explosive, and keep you feeling good versus the freshman who just got here. Like you're made out of bubblegum still. Like you can bend well, you can do all this other stuff. You haven't been beat up and hit by sticks or other stuff. So we can push you a little bit more. And we also need to teach you a little bit more. So that's kind of like, as it progresses, I kind of have 3 buckets. You just got here, you've been here for a little bit, or you've been here for a while and you're strong enough, or your position, you're strong enough. Now your position or your age dictates we just need to focus on more power, speed stuff, and maintain that strength.
Does the progression change at all, for like if you take football and you have those freshmen that come in and have to play right away? Does the progression in the weight room change at all? Even for your Olympic sports, you have some of those freshmen that come in early on and they've got a starting role. In the weight room, does the progression change for them? And do you have to make it accelerated, or like do you just kind of hopefully like just kind of keep them the same where they're at, so they're like still going along, but they've got to be ready for a game too? So how do you combat that with the freshmen and then the older guys?
Yeah, yes and no. The progression will change in the sense that, like, if it's a developmental group guy who we know is redshirting or just isn't going to play or might play a couple minutes here and there, There, we might try to chase some more strength and some more hypertrophy and some more development with them, even in season, because they're just practicing. And so we'll keep it safe, and we won't do anything crazy, but their workouts might be a little bit more intense or fatiguing because they don't have to necessarily perform on a Saturday or whatever day they might have a game. But if it is a freshman who is going to play or a younger guy who is playing right away, they will be on and this is for lacrosse, soccer, or even football, they will be on the veterans plan, which focuses on maintaining strength throughout the season, continuing to try to get them to stay explosive and be more explosive as we kind of wave up throughout the year, and keep them feeling good and not fatigued. So they're still going to get reps at everything that they need from that. But the way I'll change it specifically for them is, man, you're still not good at power cleaning yet, or you're still not ready for back squat yet. Okay, well, when you go on Tuesday or whatever day when you're lifting with the vets, you're going to do the front squat instead. Similar intensities, moving it fast, or you're going to do a hang clean, or you're going to do a clean pull, or you're going to clean from blocks, or whatever it might be. The specific modality might be a little bit different, tailored to where you are in your learning process. But the intensities, the rep schemes are going to be similar to the guys who need to perform and need to be healthy and need to be fresh for a game. So that's kind of the way I'll tweak it. They'll be on the veteran track for the season, but their specific movements, if they're not ready for the ones that the veterans have been doing, will be slightly altered based on what they need to continue to learn throughout that season. And then once the off season gets there, all right, now we're back to ground zero. We'll kind of teach everybody again at the beginning of January, if it's football, or the beginning of the school year, if it's lacrosse, and then we'll progress you up and get you ready for spring ball or whatever else might be coming down the pipe. So again, because it's just me, I try not to make all these crazy changes because I don't want to have 4 teams and 4 different workouts for every team. And 16 programs, it's that's just a lot to even keep in your head. So trying to keep it as basic as possible without it being, while it's still effective, and making slight changes to catch what each kid needs. So whether that's based off of their position, based off of their injury history, or what current injuries they might have, I'll have all of those things kind of on their workout card so that I'll have the general workout, and then I'll say, hey, this group, whether it's the goalies or the guys who are strong enough, they need to focus more on some power development and RFD. So in the weight room, their workout card is going to have this rep scheme and at this intensity. Everybody else is going to have this. The people who are injured, you're going to be doing these modifications. So I have that after a couple of years. It took me to kind of create that system. But now it's a little bit more of a plug and play where I know hey, I have these mental buckets. So I have one major workout with 3 to 4 types of modifications I'll make based off of what you might need or where you're at in your development cycle.
No, that makes perfect sense. Now, you mentioned earlier about the lack of technology. Has that deterred you from any of your programming or any ways of testing and what you're looking for? What is it that you would love to see you guys improve technology of?
Yeah, so the current technology that we do have, we have a couple jump mats, which have been super helpful. We don't have any VBT other than the one that I personally own myself. And we have 2 timing gates for sprints.
What's the TV in the weight room for?
The TV in the weight room is literally for putting up their workout. Okay. So we'll have the workout up. Whenever I have my own teams, they also have an individualized card with their name on it, their specific numbers and everything like that. But when I do it, it might be the warm up, it might be the daily prep, or the prehab type work that they're doing in between sets so that they don't forget it. Because they'll look at their card and they might just look at the main things they got and they'll kind of gloss over everything else. And so having it up on the TV will be a good way to be hey, make sure you do these sets in between this. It's up there. Don't forget it. So that's usually what the TV will be used for during workout. But it won't necessarily be showing any kind of real-time data or anything like that. So with the technology that we have, the timing gates, I'll use that for sprints. But again, because we only have, it's just one of me, it's really only one setup. I have to kind of take a day early on and a day towards the end or in the middle where it's like, today we're doing timing, because for all 60 of y'all, that's going to take that's going to take this whole time. So doing that on specific days where I plan for that, so it's not kind of getting in the way of anything. And the jump mats, I've used that obviously to record their jump height. I've used that also to record kind of like general fatigue in season. So like, hey, if your best is this and you were just jumping this, at the beginning of the year, beginning of the season, as we progress, man, if you fall below 10% of that or whatever percentage of that, and I'll have that on a piece of paper, and it'll just be, hey, as you're going, hit a jump. And if it falls under that, hey, now I'm going to tell you, I want you to work at the lower range. So in season, I'll give the guys a range of weights to work through. Because I know that their training max might not be their real max for that day. They might be fatigued. So, hey, there's like a 10% gap that we're working with. So I'm like, hey, if you're feeling great, push that limit, get up towards the top. If you're a younger guy and you're feeling great and you haven't been playing a lot, but you're still expected to play, yeah, let's push that limit. If you're an older guy or anybody else who, man, just for whatever reason, you had a midterm, you're arguing with your girl, whatever you got going on, you're not feeling it today, you still got to get that work. We still got to get better, but let's work towards that lower end. And if your jump is showing me that, you really are fatigued, all right, yeah, let's knock it down or let's modify it in the moment. But yeah, no, I feel like I want to be one of my mentors, Josh Storms at Florida State. He was at Memphis. He was who I trained under. One thing he said about technology is you want to be data informed, but not data driven. And so I kind of have that mentality of like, I want to be informed by whatever data I can collect or whatever technology I can use, but I don't want to be so reliant on the technology that I don't know how to coach or I don't know how to program. So, there's a very real experience where the power can get shut off in your building. And if you got all these bells and whistles and they need power and there's no power, how are you going to use them, right? Can you still go through your workout? That actually happened to us at Memphis. Like the power in the city was out for a day. And so it was like, what do we do? Well, we still got to get this working. So for me, I try to have as many data points as I can to have an informed view of who the athlete is and what they might need, but without having to rely on it too much and still trying to be old school and have coaching eyes and understand, man, this is looking good today, man. You're popping, you're moving, you're moving around, you look light today, or ooh, gosh, you look like crap. Okay, let's make some changes. And so the lack of technology has never deterred me from trying to push the needle in any direction. It just might change how I do it or what modalities I might use. But I mean, strength and conditioning has been around for way longer than technology has been around, and people have been getting stronger, faster, more explosive without any kind of real technology, with a pen and paper and just writing down what they do and what they did last week and how can I do it a little bit better. And so I find that if I don't stray away from that kind of mentality, whenever I do get to a place that does have technology, I'll be able to appreciate it. I'll be able to use it for what it's worth, but not be owned by it or ruled by it, and still be able to have the eyes of a coach and see, like, still get the pulse of the team whenever I need to. So yeah, it'd be great to have it, but it's not stopping us.
Yeah, I love that auto regulation with the jump mats. Is that new? Is that something you've been implementing as of recently?
Yeah, no. So that's something that I started doing probably maybe 2 springs ago with lacrosse. It was the first time I ever started doing it. And then we started doing it with football. And then we started doing it with my soccer team this past year. So like no GPS data. I have no idea to understand like load or who's doing the most. I just kind of have to be as present as I can at practice, get the information from the games. Hey, who played the most minutes? Who had the most snaps? And then from there, kind of put them in different buckets. Like, hey, if you played 90 minutes of the soccer match, when we do our team conditioning the next day or 2 days later, you got 2 reps. You're good. You just need to move and get the blood flowing. Everybody else, you're in this bucket. You got this many reps. You got this many reps. If you didn't play at all, you got the whole thing. So just trying to do it that way and keep them as healthy as possible has worked. Knock on wood, nobody's gotten hurt because of my training. And so hopefully we'll be able to keep it that way. And technology will only help make it better whenever I get to that point.
With all that being said, what's the future hold for Coach Preston, and where is he going in this strength and conditioning field?
Man, so on a personal side, my wife is in medicine. And so we've been married. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary a couple weeks ago. So shout out to us. But on all 10 years of our marriage have been like her training, right? Medical school, residency. She got her first job 2 years ago. That's what moved us up here. And it's just been busy, 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 busy. And we've kind of been, wherever we go, it's kind of based on where she gets accepted to school and all that type of stuff, where she's contractually obligated to be. But now we're at a point where she, everybody needs a doctor everywhere. So now she's more mobile. She's able to say like, hey, let's focus on your career. And that's a very real conversation that we've had in the last year of like, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? How do I want to grow in this field? And so I think about it in kind of like decade segments. My kids are 4 and almost 1. A decade from now, they're going to be going into high school, becoming teenagers. And I value my family and the time with my family. So I feel like, man, while they're young, I want to chase this thing as hard as I can now that I have the opportunity to. So whether it's chasing a Power 5 football job or another opportunity elsewhere that's going to help me grow. I'm not necessarily looking for a logo, but I'm looking for a place where I can be around like-minded people who want to learn, who want to continue to get better, and who just want to make their athletes better and just be a good person. And so not necessarily being the best ever based off of whoever's metric, but being the best that I can be. So I want to go to a place where it's a step up in terms of, well, hey, if I don't have this or I don't have the access to this at this place right now, well, eventually, can I get to a place that has more access to this or more access to these people? And can I get there and coach football, or can I get there and coach whatever sport? I don't really care. Though I played football and I love it, I like to be around football as long as I can. I just want to be around people who are trying to get better. I feel like I love learning. I have a growth mindset. I know that I'm no one's static. You can always improve in something. So I want to be around the staff or around people who think similarly. They don't have to be the same, but think similarly, who have different interests, who have different expertise in areas that they love, to be able to learn from, to learn with, and push that needle. And then, so that could be in the football realm or whatever realm. I think the next decade, I do want to try to stay in that football realm as much as I can. I mean, with all the NIL stuff and transfer stuff, it is getting a little chaotic. But I still love the sport, and, fighting for a common goal. Like, there's just something different about strength and conditioning for college football than a lot of other sports. It just like, there's this huge premium for it. And people in football have really understood, like, this is a valuable piece. Whereas other sports, like, I've had sports where they're like, yo, in season, we don't work out. So I was like, cool, I don't think you should do that, but you're the coach. I can't tell you what to do. So just football, the environment has a different feel to it. So I'd like to be around that for as long as I can. But again, I do recognize that eventually my family is going to take precedent. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like, man, my son is about to go run track, or he's about to have his football game or his basketball game, his piano recital. I don't know what they're going to do. He's going to have this event, and I want to be able to be there. So eventually I want to be in a role where I have stability. I don't have to worry about getting fired because we went 6-3 or whatever it might be. I can worry about coaching whoever's in my room as best I can, but also having the time to go home and be with my family. So I kind of look at it that way. The next 10 years, man, I want to grind. I want to get after it while they're young. I want to do whatever I can, go as high as I can, be a director here, there, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. As long as it's meeting the goals where I'm getting better and I'm learning and I'm helping people, I'm cool with it. And then looking for opportunities that might be at the same level. I don't know what it'll be in 10 years that will allow me to have a little bit more work-life balance and a lot of job stability. So I can say, hey, I don't got to worry about this coach coming in. Now I'm fired, and now we got to move somewhere and pack everything up and leave. But who knows? 10 years, my attitude could change. So I just want to be the best that I can be, coaching kids, coaching athletes at whatever level it is, and making a difference in my family's life and making a difference in the lives of the athletes that I'm working with, wherever that the Lord might bless me to be.
That's it, man. That's dope. We hope to see you somewhere big, but we got our last segment. We got our 60-second round, Coach. It's one-word answers.
Okay.
Right? It could be all across the board. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right, here we go. 6 seconds on the clock. Favorite NFL team?
Buffalo Bills. Sorry, that's
Dream vacation spot?
Aruba.
Guilty pleasure food?
ice cream with peanut butter.
Best athlete you've ever trained?
Best athlete. I would have to say, that's a toss-up. Antonio Gibson.
Favorite movie genre?
Comedy.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Dream car?
Whatever is good on gas.
Your number one flaw as a coach?
Number one flaw, imposter syndrome.
Hey,
Would you rather be in an octagon with a bear, tiger, or a gorilla?
A gorilla, because they.
And that is it right there, Coach. We appreciate you taking out the time to be here with us today. Thank you for dropping all the knowledge and all the insight on what it's like being a college strength and conditioning coach and all the stuff that you're going through now, man. So kudos to you. Proud of you, dog. Continue to do what you're doing. We'd love to see your progress.
Man, I appreciate it, man. You guys have been so gracious and hospitable with this. I appreciate the questions. This has been dope. Yeah, no, I'm about to start pumping y'all as much as I can. This is dope. As everything that I've seen that you guys do and the people you interview, you guys are really trying to create a platform for coaches all across the board, no matter who they are, no matter what level they're at. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has something to contribute. And you guys are finding those people and bringing out those hidden gems. So I really appreciate that.
Coach, we appreciate it, man. And we're out of here.